Okay, we're going to start our panel. Yeah. Basically, panel is going to be on media trends. We've got vendors or representation from folks who are building the different technologies. We're going to start off with a talk from April Alstrin from Oracle. She's the director of tape drive engineering. So, April.
Okay. Hello. I've been promised you won't throw food at me if I talk through your lunch here. Thank you for giving me a little time to actually acknowledge the people who are using tape. This has all been about disk and flash and how wonderful it is, but I know a lot of you do have tape in the background, and that actually is a really good part of the overall storage solution. And there's a good future for tape going forward. We've all made reference to it. Everyone is generating data at a ridiculous rate. They're estimating over 35,000 exabytes of data will be stored by 2020. That's a growth rate of about 50% per year. And where are we going to put it all? It really can't all fit on flash. It can't all fit on hard drives. A lot of it is going to end up stored on tape. And that's because about 80% of the data no one goes back and looks at. Certainly after 3 months, that data should go on a very low-cost storage tier, because you may need it back, but you don't want to be paying all that power cost. So tape is going to continue to remain very, very popular. People have been throwing out cost numbers. They talk about dollars per terabyte and it being the lowest cost. You've seen TCO numbers. The fact of the matter is tape is consistently lower cost and the price is dropping. In Bob's presentation, he was trying to show right now tape is about a penny per gig. That's going to continue dropping because we have a very healthy roadmap in terms of increasing our capacity. So even though flash is coming down and disk pricing is coming down, tape is going to continue to come down as well. One thing that no one's talking about is security. And that's important to talk about. Everyone has all their flash, everyone has all their disk, and we're talking about hooking up to the internet. Viruses, hackers, you've got a gateway to your data, and you really have to be thinking about that and how you can protect the consumer and the data that's being stored. Tape is offline. It's really, really hard to hack data on tapes. That's very important for customers. You need to remember that. Multiple famous examples of you have a software update, something very straightforward. You send it out into your data center. It replicates across all your disks. You've got a big, big problem. Google has publicly talked about their little oops they had with 35,000 email accounts lost. That's the reason why you should remember to have tape there to help you protect your data. And that's going to be a growing concern as you see more and more hack attacks on your data. We've already mentioned tape is very, very low energy, and it does have the lowest migration frequency. Data tapes are good for 30 years, and typically we don't see customers replacing their hardware for 7 to 10 years. The media that's produced typically can be read through several generations of tape drives, so you can migrate your data on your own schedule. You're not forced every couple of years to worry about something's going to fail and you have to migrate to the new generation. So that's a definite value for tape. Now we see tape being used mainly in archive and cold storage. So basically, you're only going to be using tape if you have a lot of capacity you have to store. And we are talking petabytes. We're not aiming for terabytes. We're talking petabytes and exabytes of data. And the data that's going to go on tape is you don't need to access it very frequently. You don't need a high availability. Now, for some people, that doesn't work. But for a lot of the data you have, it's perfect for it. And it is the lowest cost point. It's going to continue to be the lowest cost point. A new trend that we are seeing is the cloud. Everyone's talking about getting their hardware into the cloud. And everyone's talking about having the best cloud pricing up there. Well, I'm another person who's going to tell you that I have even better cloud pricing than what you've heard earlier. Oracle has a archive cloud offering that's 1/10 of a penny per gig per month. How do we beat everyone else's pricing? Hint, we use the lowest cost storage available, which is tape. So using flash, using disk, you can't hit that price point. So we have identified a need to use tape in the cloud, and a lot of other cloud providers are also seeing that. And you're gonna see more archive cloud offerings where you don't need that instant access, where that 4-hour SLA is perfectly fine for your use. You're gonna see more and more tape going into cloud, and that's keeping our industry very, very healthy. We find companies that have their own data centers. They like managing their data, but having that second, third, fourth copy, if you work the numbers, you might find it's actually cheaper to send that data up into the cloud and let someone else manage it and have it sitting on tape, protected. So where is tape going? There's been a lot of talk about areal density, and you need to increase areal density to increase capacity. That is the basic rule. All development sort of heads that way. And tape actually has a consortium that makes roadmaps. We just completed our tape roadmap in February of this year. We've mapped out what it's going to take to go until 2025 and hit certain capacity points. We've identified the technologies. We have a roadmap that the entire industry has agreed upon and is going to be following. And that roadmap, if you look at the green squares there, that is showing tape products released through the years. You'll see it's been very, very stable areal density growth rate, about 33% per year. We are projecting we can continue that same growth rate through the year 2025. So basically, we've looked and we didn't put any kinks in it. We're very confident we can maintain that growth rate. That's in contrast to the red. The red is the hard disk products. They had a great spurt of growth. Late 1990s, early 2000s, they had a big technology breakthrough, and they really grew in areal density growth, and then it got hard again. In Bob's talk, he was implying the last year there's only about 10% areal density growth. INSIC's calculation, they looked over several years, and they actually were seeing about a 16% growth rate for hard disks. It's getting really hard to squeeze more bits on those platters. I've talked about doing tricks, adding platters, going to shingled magnetic recording, but they're not going to have another big jump until they get hammer out. So heat-assisted magnetic recording, it's great technology. It's hard. You've been hearing about it for years and years and years, and yes, it's in the lab. It's still not out there, and until that comes out, they really can't push their capacity much further. Tape, we don't need hammer. If you'll notice, we're a couple orders of magnitude lower than disk. That's fine because we have so much more surface area in a tape. You unspool one of the cartridges, there's more than 1 kilometer of tape in there. That's tons of surface area. We don't need such high areal densities for our storage to work. We also can look to see what the hard disk drive people did to reach the areal densities we're projecting. And I'll admit it, I steal blatantly. I love the hard disk industry. I came from there, and I can look at how they built their heads, and I can take those technologies and put it in tape heads. So I'm evolving. I'm not having to do new invention. I'm just figuring out how to do, instead of a single head, there's 32 tracks on a tape head now. Signal processing, the channel development, we look to see how hard disk people handled the problems, and we incorporate it into tape products. So it's really nice. I've got my roadmap and all these papers, all this technology already in existence that I can put into tape. And that gives me a lot of confidence going forward that I can get to where the roadmap shows. I also have tape technology demonstrations that are showing me that we have the technology to get there. So the roadmap, that was an aerial density. Translating it into what people want to know, 248 terabyte cartridges by 2025. That's what we're predicting. Everyone scoffs at this point. We all scoffed at the previous roadmap projections, and we've stayed right on track. We think we can get there because of two very different technology demonstrations. Sony has demonstrated sputtered media. What's the big deal? That's how you coat the platters in hard disk drives. Well, those platters, that's only the 3.5-inch disk. Tape, I just told you it's a kilometer of basically saran wrap. Sony actually produced full cartridges using this technology. So this is a proof of manufacturability. So that's a new option for tape. We haven't been able to even consider sputtered media. They've put that on the table for us. And they've been able to, with their demonstration, we project you can hit cartridge capacities of about 185 terabytes. Fujifilm said, that's very nice, but what we're doing now works great. They produce barium ferrite magnetic particles. In fact, the entire industry has gone to barium ferrite. If you haven't paid attention to tape, we've abandoned good old metal particles. Oracle was the first to go to barium ferrite when we launched the T10000C drive. IBM followed. They also started producing media with barium ferrite. LTO7 now, it's all completely barium ferrite. Fujifilm takes that technology and they can just do it better, make the particles smaller, have better coating processes. So they're working on improving their technology, and their demonstration showed cartridge capacities of about 220 terabytes. So we know it's possible. We've seen this in the labs already. So when I say tape has a very good future, it does, based on these demos as well as the hard disk industry. Because, as I said, it's an evolution, it's not invention. We just have to keep on doing what we have been doing quite successfully. We aren't going to run into a big physics problem. So due to time constraints, and you guys are eating lunch, trying to get back on schedule, I'm not going to talk about all the other features that are going into tape besides increasing capacity. People had many complaints about tape. They didn't think we were addressing some of the needs, and that's why people are more comfortable maybe with disk. We're going to talk about these features that are now available on tape drives at the vendor discussion. I'm not going to cover this today, but we are better dealing of data integrity. We've improved the read access times on tape, and we've really made it simpler to do media migration, which has been a big fear. Everyone is mentioning the pain of media migration. We have a solution for that. But for the sake of time, I'm going to skip that and just summarize that tape has a very strong future. It's going to remain the most cost-effective and reliable technology out there for long-term data storage. You're going to see the capacity growth and the aerial density growth that we need to store that 35,000 exabytes of data that's going to be generated. And it's also important to acknowledge that I don't expect all your data to go to tape. What you really need to look at is your needs, and the assumption is you're going to have some flash, you're going to have some disk, and you're going to have some tape. And we need to work together to find the best balance of how to store your data. But tape is going to be there for those long-term archive needs. So, thank you.